A special presentation of LLBN with archaeologists Dr. Lawrence Garrity and Dr. Doug Clark. Excavating the Bible.
Welcome to this edition of Excavating the Bible, what archaeology can teach us. This program is dedicated to exploring the contributions of archaeology in the Middle East to our understanding of and appreciation for the Bible. I'm Doug Clark. I direct the Center for Near Eastern Archaeology at La Sierra University in Riverside, California, and I'm joined by several people. I want to start with the farthest person on my right, Dr. Larry Garrity, who is Associate Director of the Center for Near Eastern Archaeology, an administrator at La Sierra, longtime archaeologist, and Kent Bramlett, who is Associate Professor of Archaeology and the History of Antiquity at La Sierra, and Dr. Tom Levy, who is Distinguished Professor of Anthropology at the University of California, San Diego. And we're so glad that you're here because you've allowed us now to pick your brain, to think with you. This is the third episode, and we want to talk this time about King Solomon and the big issue of the 10th century. But before we do that, let's look at what we've got here in front of us. Kent and Larry, talk to us. And actually, you're going to have to tell us about a couple of things right in front of me, so please.
Well, we have some pottery vessels here that are very typical of the 10th century. So since we're introducing the issue of the 10th century, part of the problem is knowing what fits, what should be placed when we dig things up, which buildings, which structures fit in that 10th century time period. And one of the traditional hallmarks of the 10th century are pottery vessels which are hand burnished. That means that before they're fired, they're rubbed. They're leathered hard, that is, they're not fired, but they're a little bit dry, and they're rubbed to smooth the surface. And hand burnishing goes every which way, and you can see these streaks. Whereas the next century, 100 years later, they're burnishing while it's turning on the wheel, and you have very even marks. So this juglet is a good example of hand burnishing. You have vertical marks going up and down, as well as a couple of bowls here. And other 10th century vessels would be these little red, black juglets. And then it's a Cypro-Phoenician vessel with black on red. And our beautiful vessel, it's a little bit later. This is probably past the 10th century. But again, the red burnished Phoenician vessel.
Right. Tom, we have something that looks Edomite.
Yeah, I brought this from our Levantine archaeology lab at UC San Diego. This is an Edomite ceramic cup, and we found a number of these in a very elaborate residence of some elite person that may have been involved with the control of metal production in this region of biblical Edom, the Edom lowlands. It's got a beautiful kind of net-like pattern around it. And then this, man, this is,
I'll help you.
This is, can you hold part of that? It's slag. So this is the waste material from smelting copper ore. Okay, so the ore, when you heat it up to over 1400 degrees centigrade, and then it starts to separate the metal out from the host rock. So this is all the waste. And if you look at it, you see these, they're like rivulets here. So when they break the furnace open, the slag starts to spill out over the ground. And you can see these pouring, almost, they look like patterns from
looks
pouring.
like lava.
It looks like lava, exactly. And if you turn it over, you can see that's what the surface of the area around the furnace actually looked like. And a lot of times you get pieces of charcoal caught in between here and preserved, so we can do radiocarbon dating on the charcoal from this stuff. So it's very nice.
And you got a lot of your samples?
I have over 35 tons of artifacts from Jordan, which is on permanent loan from the Department of Antiquities. And this is actually from a 10th century BC smelting episode, okay? That's exactly how it came out of the furnace on that day.
And we want to come back in this particular episode of Excavating the Bible to why that's important, why that matters. So we'll do that.
Okay.
Before doing that, Larry, I know this is a reach for you to get across over here.
Yeah, there's some metal weapons there, a dagger and a lance and a sword, a knife and an axe head.
With the axe head here.
So these would all be made out of copper that are mixed with tin,
probably.
or
Tin.
yeah.
Mostly tin.
It would be tin.
Not arsenic.
Well, sometimes the copper ore actually contained arsenic.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. That was the
But that's how you make bronze. And then in front of them are some scarabs, which we often think of as coming from Egypt, because they are made like the little insect that is found in Egypt. It would push along a dung ball, and sometimes they thought of the sun as being pushed by a giant scarab, and they sometimes the surface will have an inscription, the name of a pharaoh, something like that, and so they're very helpful in dating and other reasons as well.
And I think we're going to see a nice example.
We're going to have a beautiful example
Excellent.
for you.
Beautiful. Beautiful is what an archaeologist discovers, whatever it looks like. But I think this is going to be poor. That's going to be it. Beautiful slang. I like that. Okay. Now, before we turn to the archaeology surrounding the 10th century, and I mean, we could have episode upon episode upon episode to explore all of the archaeological evidence. But before we do that, what about the biblical material? Kent, Larry, what do we know about Solomon? What do we know about the 10th century in the biblical literature?
Well, the Bible, of course, has Solomon being an extremely pivotal figure in Israelite history. We call it the time of the United Monarchy. It was, according to the Bible, the height of the period, because after him, the kingdom split during the time of his son, and there were two kingdoms, one in the north, Israel, and one in the south, Judah. But Solomon was thought of as one of the wisest people ever to have lived, and so we attribute a few of the Psalms to him, and the Proverbs, many of the Proverbs. Even the book of Ecclesiastes is often attributed to him. So the book of Kings that describes his reign tells us a lot about his personal life and who he was married to, and even the Pharaoh in Egypt gave as a dowry when he married the Pharaoh's daughter, the city of Gezer, where a couple of us have worked and excavated. So a famous text in 1 Kings 9, I think it is, talks about how Solomon fortified 4 different cities, Jerusalem and Gezer and Megiddo and Hatzor. And at 3 of those, gates were found that the Israeli archaeologist Yadin suggested were so alike each other that they had to have had the same architect to build them. And 3 of those 3 gates, excluding only Jerusalem, have been excavated, and for many people they are evidence that Solomon existed when he was supposed to, according to the Bible in the 10th century, and was king of a realm that extended over a wide period.
Now, would they suggest something about the time? I mean, Solomon never puts his name on these things.
No.
And so we're making some inferences in the process.
That's right.
And we do that. That's
right.
what historians do.
One thing you could say is a key data point, like a chronological marker in the Hebrew Bible would be the name of a king, an Egyptian pharaoh, Shishak, or Shoshank I, which in the Bible it says he invaded Canaan, Israel, 5 years after the death of Solomon. So that would be, what, like 925, 26 BCE. So that's a really important data point, and we know who this guy is from the Egyptian record.
And I think we're going to look at something.
We're going to look at something from our own research. Yeah.
So we're tying different kinds of evidence. We're actually shifting already from Bible to archaeology, but it's hard for us, all of us who appreciate the Hebrew Bible and archaeology, it's hard for us to separate them anyway. So maybe then let's think about the archaeology. And Tom, we have some slides. I want you to help us understand these. And this first one is going to be...
Well, we're going to go back to our research area around 50 kilometers south of the Dead Sea. It's called the Fainan district in southern Jordan. That's what this little square is here. So here's Jordan, Israel, the Palestinian territories, and these are the major wadis or seasonal drainages that flow through the biggest ancient copper ore district in the southeast Mediterranean.
And your site of Fainan, as you said in the previous segment, is related to a biblical term for the same area, right?
Here is, where is it? Oh, there it is, Khirbet Fainan. That's the Arabic name for the biblical site known as Funon in the Hebrew Bible, one of the stops of the Israelite exodus through the region. So these yellow numbers are the number of radiocarbon dates that have been processed at our different excavation sites in the area. That's a lot, believe me. I mean, most digs from the Iron Age in the southern Levant rarely process 10 or 20.
Do you know of any dig that has more in the southern Levant?
Well, I challenged the famous biblical archaeologist Israel Finkelstein. For years he was criticizing our work, and I said, well, if Megiddo's the most important Iron Age site in the southern Levant, you should have as many as us.
Right.
But he has about, I think they published 80 so far. You know.
And you have altogether?
Well, we have 118 from Khirbet and Nahas,
one alone,
and 135 Iron Age dates.
So these are all from the Iron Age?
Yes, everything here is an Iron Age story. So that let's remember the Iron Age around 1200 to 500 BC.
Right.
And that 10th century BC is such a contentious period because, as we heard about David and Solomon, it's about the historicity of those two characters. And a lot of people, it's about belief. Because if the Bible says that Solomon had a magnificent kingdom in the 10th century BCE, and then archaeologists tell you no, they had nothing, well, that's a problem.
Right. That's an issue. And it forces us to be maybe thinking of some new research approaches, or maybe making some adjustments in our understandings.
Yeah, and I think it means that, like in our case, it meant trying to use some new transdisciplinary techniques of collaboration and so on to tackle this period in a different way.
Right.
So basically what we're going to see is we dug this site like a prehistoric site.
Okay, which you started out doing. It was prehistory.
Personally, I started out as a prehistorian.
Right.
And then, as I think I mentioned once, that by the time I hit the age of 50, I had worked up to the Iron Age.
You got to something interesting. What you were doing before, to some of us,
it was all, for you guys,
it's
it wasn't
pre-interesting.
I know, pre-interesting. Like the Roman period.
Yeah, right. Post-interesting. Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
So, yeah, here's an aerial view of Khirbet and Nahas, the ruins of copper. It's the largest Iron Age smelting site for copper in the southeast Mediterranean. Okay, this site really, and many of the sites in the area reflect the first industrial revolution in the southeast Mediterranean. Okay, it happened earlier on the island of Cyprus, but for our region, the Holy Land, this is it.
Right.
The Romans did not extract as much copper as the Iron Age people did in this area. And so that's black industrial slag. That's a monumental fortress. Now, many people thought that that dated to the Roman period, but let's see when you do careful excavation what it dates to.
Right. And the slag that we were talking about on the table comes from?
This slag is the kind of slag that was found in some of the layers. We actually excavated part of one of these ancient slag mounds, and we'll see that. Because that, you see, the technology becomes like a proxy for measuring social evolution. Yeah.
This is a question that goes beyond what we're talking about, but is there enough copper there to be commercially viable today?
No, thank goodness.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
it would destroy a lot of archaeology.
Yeah, because the Fainan district is actually the best preserved ancient mining and metallurgy district in the world.
Wow.
You know, we would love to make this area a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Even compared to Cyprus?
Oh yeah, Cyprus has been tooled out by modern mining. I've worked there, and there's almost nothing left from the ancient records. So this is a great, you saw it, it's just on the surface. Here you can see some of our grad students, Tom Whippich over here, using a laser scanner to collect billions of georeferenced data points that are, so you have the XY coordinates for each point plus color. You can create a giant point cloud and then use that to analyze data. So let's see how that works. So here is an animation of the fortress we looked at and our excavations in the actual gatehouse, okay? Now we're using this point cloud of 1 billion points as a kind of a scaffold in which to embed other kinds of data, like the Geographic Information System layers, the GIS excavation layers that we went through. Those are the different colors that you see there. And then we can plot the data points where we have radiocarbon dates that have been processed. Here we can show conclusively that this monumental building, this giant fortress, was built in the 10th century BC, and only a complex society could have done that. So for the biblical minimalists, and remember, I did not have a dog in this fight, I didn't care about the chronology, but the dates came back, and they show that this monumental structure, which could have only been built by like a kingdom, dated to the early 10th century BC. Let's keep going.
How tight, I wanted to ask you a question, how tight can you go with carbon-14?
Okay, well when you have a very good stratigraphic record like this, like here we dug a trench 5 meters by 5 meters through a slag mound, recording every single layer, and then getting about 26 high-precision radiocarbon dates through that column. That gives really good chronological control. Then you can apply what's called Bayesian statistics, which basically you get your regular dates, but then based on their stratigraphic position in the profile, it weights the dates. So when you do the statistics, you can get even better sub-century dating. So when you talk about biblical archaeology, Kent talked about the 9th century pottery there, the 10th century pottery there. When we can start to get into the sub-century dating in those centuries, we're really able to kind of get back to the history, you know, linking the archaeological record to the history. And that we'll see is really important here in the column, because this building dates to the early 9th century BCE. There's a break in the stratigraphic record. Everything under the building here dates to the 10th century BC, all the way almost down to bedrock here. So you have 2.5 meters of industrial slag from the 10th century BCE. Then a building is built here, and you have another 3 meters of industrial slag. So almost 6 meters of slag, like this stuff, that could
It
only
goes
be,
all the way through Iron Age.
and only in the 2 centuries.
Oh, 2 centuries.
So that's a really rapid accumulation, okay? And so it means that you had to have, again, a complex society involved with this production method. Now, we didn't find any Assyrian pottery. There's no evidence for the Assyrian Empire there or the Egyptian Empire in this sequence. So it's fair to say it's a local story. Now, was it the local Edomites from this region, or is there an Israelite component? We don't know.
But this is in the Edomite lowland project area.
This is.
And so we're thinking about this in terms of even of dating the Edomites. At least we're in the territory that would be included in that
yes,
description.
in fact, our working hypothesis now is that that this occupation is an Edomite occupation. Okay, you can trace the evolution of the Edomites much earlier than what Crystal Bennett had done, and she said it began in the 7th century. Well, we can show that the roots are even further back. So what about this break? Well, we suggested that it was due to an intervention by the Egyptian king known from the Hebrew Bible as Shoshank, or in the Hebrew Bible he's Shishak, in Egyptian Shoshank the first.
Right.
And we did find some amulets there, Egyptian amulets. Not enough to say that the Egyptians were settled there. But look what we found later. We found an Egyptian scarab with the name of Shoshank on it. This is the second time in the history of archaeology, that's in Palestine, Israel, that's over 150 years of research, that an object has been found with the name of Shishak. The other one was found at Megiddo back in the 1930s by the University of Chicago. So we found that, we published it in the journal Antiquity, and then it's published also in our final work.
Right. An important connection, especially the way the Bible describes it, but also now archaeology has provided this added
And the
layer.
Bible doesn't say that the Egyptians had reestablished an empire, like they did in the late Bronze Age. It suggests that Shishak came in there and just kind of knocked people around, took booty, and basically wanted to disturb the whole economic system of these small polities that we see there.
Right.
Drink if you want to.
Okay, thank you. Here's some of that technological data I mentioned that we can use to measure social change. The 10th century, even though they were doing industrial scale smelting, they had rather small clay pipes used as tuyere pipes to force air into the furnace. In the 9th century, they double in size, in diameter, and the smelting becomes much more efficient. So if I took my X-ray fluorescence and I measured the amount of copper that's retained in the slag, in the 10th century you would get one value, and then you would see much less metal left in the slag in the following 9th century BC.
Because of that efficiency.
Because that efficiency, yeah. Let's keep going.
Okay.
Okay, in this video, what you're going to see is how we can use our balloon system that we developed with the help of undergraduates at UC San Diego from aerospace engineering to collect high-definition photographs that can be georeferenced and then used for mapping the site. And we used that with a balloon system. This was in 2009. Now we're using drones and all of that. But you'll see in this 3D visualization, based on the map that we produced for National Geographic, that they could build this beautiful reconstruction that you see there of the whole copper factory at Khirbet Nahas. And you can see the smoke bellowing up. And that kind of model is made using certain kinds of 3D image files like Maya and so on. And I'm happy to say that a couple weeks ago they finally gave us, they were made by a company called Pixel Desk. They gave us those images so we can now incorporate our own data. And if we keep going here, this is just to remind the viewers that our lab, under my colleague Tom DeFonte, a distinguished professor of computer science, built a scientific visualization lab like the kind we use at UC San Diego for this new Saudi university called King Abdullah University of Science and Technology. Next. And here you can see an animation where at the opening of the university, KAUST, they asked me to demo the Jordanian archaeological data from this contentious period of the 10th century.
That we're talking about, right?
Yeah, and so here we're going through the whole sequence in 3D, looking at all the different artifacts. We can identify activity areas there. Let's keep going. So basically, one of the big contributions of our research turns out to revolve around chronological issues and also trying to understand the nature of the local societies at this time of the Iron Age in Jordan. So number one, this was the old chronology, pretty much based on Crystal Bennett's work.
That's for Edom, you mean?
For Edom. Yeah, I should say this is for Edom.
Yeah.
But as we're seeing now, we can use Edom as a kind of proxy for looking at what happens across the border in Judah, you see. And we're seeing that radiocarbon dating pushes it back to the early Iron Age and the end of the late Bronze Age. And now we've seen that sometime around 1000 BC here, we have monumental buildings. I mean, not only the fortress at Khirbet Nahas,
right,
but other things as well.
And we can talk about something happening here on a larger than tribal scale, but we're not proving Solomon or David here, but this provides this kind of context that would be...
What it does is it shows, because there's no Assyrian evidence there or outsider, that we have complex societies at that time. We have to re-engage this book. Okay, you cannot, I don't think you can do Iron Age archaeology in the Holy Land without using this as one of many sources.
Probably in new ways, depending on how people used it in the past. I mean, we talk about the shift in the way we use it. Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you, Kent and Larry. And thank all of you for joining us for this edition of Excavating the Bible. Until next time, think ancient, keep believing, and keep exploring. For Excavating the Bible, I'm Doug Clark.